Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Tonight I'm going to be tuning this B20 VTEC EG hatch that we worked on in the last video. I got a new TPS sensor on it and a new map sensor. We were having issues before, but I got this stuff figured out and sorted the best I can. I got some distributor bolts in it because it only had one, and I got the timing set. Unfortunately, this crank pulley didn't have any marks on it, so I had to take it off and mark it with a white chalk. So I marked it with like a white Sharpie chalk thing, whatever they call it, I can't remember. The shaker, I can't remember. So anyways, I got the timing set, and I have a tune in it with HTS, and I'm using the Snake EMU ECU that I have. But unfortunately, it doesn't have VTEC in the ECU, so I can only tune the low cam map with that. And I got it on the dyno, and I've been going through cruising and idle and stuff like that. And when this thing got dropped off, it had a really hard time starting. So you'd always have to give it throttle to get it to fire up. But now I actually went through and I adjusted the throttle stop a little bit higher on the throttle body to get it to idle at like 1500 or so, because this car does have a set of Skunk 2 camshafts in it. I think they're like a Skunk 2, I don't know, stage 2. I don't know if they're tuner series or Pro 2, but we'll find out when we start making some jam. If they're Pro 2s, it's gonna wanna fucking go forever. It's not gonna shut off up top. So, I set the idle higher manually with the timing locked at 16, and then I go through on these camshaft cars only because they're a little bit more funky to get to idle good. So I do that, and then I pull back the idle from 1500 down to 1000 with timing. So I'm only running 10 degrees of timing at idle instead of 16, and that gets it to calm down to 1000. And in the map, I have the timing at 16 when it's cold and warming up, so it idles at 1500, and then when it hits a certain temperature, the timing goes away from the coolant addition, because you can add coolant or add timing based off of coolant temperature. So I pull the timing back as it warms up, so the idle calms back down. So it should run pretty much like stock or close to it, you know. Other than that, I do have everything set up in the car. I put a wideband in this car. You can see it's just sitting on the seat right now. And the kid is going to be making his own mount and stuff to put the wideband where he wants, but I just have a wideband in it for tuning right now. And most of these all motor deals, it's always good to monitor your air fuel, but especially a pump gas all motor car, the tune should be good, you know, for the most part, where you don't need the wideband, but it's always good to have it, especially just to be monitoring stuff. I recommend everybody puts a wideband in their car, just so you know what it's doing. It's a great tuning tool and a great diagnostic tool. So without further ado, I'm gonna do my first power run with the car. I have, like I said, I have the low cam tuned in pretty good, and I have a guess on the high cam. It might be lean, it might be rich, I'm not sure. So only way to find out is to do a power run, and that's what we're gonna do. So I have the dyno all set up, ready to rip. Let's get this thing ripping. I'll pick up with you guys when we start doing a pull. So that pull was a little bit rich up top, and it felt like VTEC was too high. We'll see here on the log what it made. 197 horsepower, and 145 foot-pounds of torque, so not too bad, especially for, you know, still being a little bit rich up top. I think I'm gonna lower the VTEC down. Here's the chart. 1 second, let me change the color so you can tell what it is. Red, blue. So you can see VTEC definitely had a jump in power right here when it started carrying out. We spun at about 8,000 RPM there, and it was starting to get rich up here. And VTEC needs to be a little bit lower. As you can tell, like it's probably going to want to be like 4,500, because you can see here the car makes good torque, and then as soon as the torque starts to fall off, that's when VTEC should be getting enabled. So I'm going to enable VTEC, pull out a little bit of fuel, or I'm going to enable VTEC a little bit lower, and then I'm going to pull some fuel out up top. So you can see here, like above 6,500, it's pretty fat. So I'm actually going to pull probably like 7% out up here. Try to maybe smoothen this out a little bit. You can see on the 2D graph, it's got a little bit of zigzaggy going on, but it's not terrible. It does follow the power curve. That's what we're looking for over here. We only have 26 to 27 degrees of ignition timing in it right now, so we might play with that eventually. The VTEC here is at 5,500. We're going to go down to 4,500 and see how that does for engagement. Our rev limiter is 8,200 right now. I'm probably going to set this at like 85. So I got the rev limiter changed. Another thing too, this TPS doesn't seem, I think it's the throttle body realistically, because it doesn't register throttle position until I'm at least like 10% throttle. So what I'm going to do to alleviate that is I'm going to take the voltage for my custom TPS that I have here, and I'm going to lower it so it'll think it's actually higher TPS than what it really is, because the issue that I'm having is the car's trying to shut off fuel when I'm really light throttle, because the throttle's open but the TPS is saying 0, so it's trying to shut the fuel off. If it always stays at 1 or 2%, we should be dialed. So that's what I'm going for. It's not going to make a big difference for anything else. Alright guys, got the changes loaded into the car. We're going to give it another whirl. That pull was awesome. The air fuel was perfect. It was very close, like 12.5 the whole pull, 12.8 coming into VTEC, but it was very steady, and it didn't go rich up top that time, and VTEC sounded a lot better being lower. We'll see what it did. Yep, it picked up power pretty much everywhere. I didn't quite spin it as high that run, but we picked up big power in the mid-range, guys. Let's see how much overall power. We made the same exact peak power, 197 horse, but I didn't spin it quite as high. If I'd have spun it a little bit higher, we might have, you know, been able to hit 200. I might try to just put a degree or two of timing in it on this next one and see if we can crack that 200 number. But look at this jump in the center, just as I expected. VTEC could probably even go a little bit lower, to be honest. You can see where it picked up all in here and up in here. So and then this is the fuel change that I did. That's just fuel change for the difference there. So now that we know our air fuel is good, I might bump VTEC down even lower, probably try like 4,200, something like that. I don't think this thing has a very big camshaft in it. I think these cams are pretty mild. because a Pro 2 or a Pro 3 would be making more power than this, in my opinion. But it might have some mild stage 1 cam or something in it. But it's running really good. This header's also got a pretty big dent in it, so that's probably hurting power. But it does have Performer X intake, which, I mean, that thing makes broad torque, guys. Like, this thing is gonna rip for a street car and a B series. Look at this torque. It's just like an electric car, dude. It's completely flat the whole way through. It's exactly what you want. Another thing that is a little bit concerning to me and why I'm not really trying to rev the shit out of this engine is because it does have one of these lightweight crank pulleys on it. Down here you can see it's just a single belt deal, and those tend to not dampen a lot of vibrations from the engine, and they end up taking the oil pump out and you'll lose oil pressure, and that's never good. So I don't usually like running those pulleys. This thing seems like it's okay right now, and he's just going to be delivery driving with it for Jimmy John's. So just trying to get it running as best as I can with what's here, and then maybe clean up some of the oil mess after we get done tuning. So, because it does leak some oil, I believe, from the valve cover gasket right here, but I'm not 100% sure. So this whale penis intake is also probably hurting power. Believe it or not, guys, these things do not really make great power. The expansion chamber idea is kind of cool, and they do help a little bit with torque, but a shorter intake would probably make more power up top, and probably getting rid of this filter would also make more power. But we're just going to tune it as is. I'm not going to try to go for the moon on this thing, but I bet you I could crack 205 or so, 210 maybe, with different intake, different cold air intake, and you know, pumping some timing into this thing. But like I said, we're trying to keep it safe. But let's try 2 degrees and see what it does for power. All right, guys, I just put 1 degree of timing in it, and we're gonna see how it responds. Hopefully we can make 200 horse. Alright guys, so this was the last run that we just did. I spun it a little bit higher, and we were able to make 199.5 horsepower, but she's getting pretty flat up here. It's not really liking the timing. I did put a degree in it and it did literally nothing, so I'll pull that timing back out of it. I kind of know where these things want to be anyway, and it just, you know, it didn't really respond too well to it, so I'm just gonna leave it. 199 horse. I mean, we can yank the filter off and make 200, I guarantee it, but I think that's gonna do it for this one. He just wants something that is a good daily driver, and this thing runs great. Very happy with it now that we got all the issues fixed with it. It runs and drives very good. Pretty happy with this, so he should be happy as well. So on to the next one. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys later. Have a great night and a better tomorrow.